Stop saying I was on mute. I've even seen T-shirts of this now, even in the general sort of shops. Working more than when I was at the office, it does feel like that, right? Because you almost feel like you have to justify the time that you're actually working. Stop the unnecessary meetings. People feel like they have to be busy. It's another kind of anti-pattern that we're seeing. Stop letting others say working from home isn't as productive. Exactly. I think you'll find that with the right environment, the right trust, and the right setup, working from home can be as productive, if not more so. Stop caring less of my health amidst the remote work situation. Yeah, I think a lot of people, you're going to be working more, spending less time, especially in the lockdown. It's even harder to get the exercise out and your own physical and mental health. Be very conscious of that for sure. Cancel meetings, share notes, thoughts, and summaries. Stop thinking too much. Stop overthinking. Stop talking about business first. Yes, start making those human connections right away. So many meetings, you haven't seen anybody for 2 or 3 days, and you dial in, and the very first thing is, right, what's the agenda? Instead of actually making a human connection about how people are feeling. We often call it a check in. Allowing people to check in and see how they're feeling is actually really super important. And from the start side of things, start scheduling meetings on uneven times. Yeah, actually, that's quite an interesting one because it forces people to remember, but also gives you buffer. Set up workspace as mentioned in your presentation. Connecting more with colleagues, definitely, right? You need to start more with that. You're not just bums on seats. You're not just people working in a factory, right? You're not machines in a factory. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're working in the creative knowledge work industry, then yeah, you need to be able to connect with people. Mandatory camera on. If you're in the office, there was no way to hide your face in the meeting room. I've seen that as well. I mean, be conscious of people's safety, of course, but I think it's on the side of caution a little, but I think it's important to ensure that when people are briefed that they need to connect, then I suppose it's an important thing. If you're in a meeting room, you couldn't really put your face away. Start the water cooler conversations, get to know teammates outside your immediate team. I think it's really important. The water cooler moments, it's almost like creating unstructured time, planning for unstructured time. That's also fine, right? People have seen that. I've seen people have coffee mornings. Hey guys, let's just meet up for 10, 15 minutes, have a quick coffee and a chat. I've also seen happy hours as well, people meeting up for a drink after work, but remotely. Take that time out to connect as humans. It's really important to do that because actually the conversations that you get around the water cooler, around the corridor, are actually some of the most important ones. When you're feeling that you've got time to breathe and your brain is working in the background, those connections can be super important. Start a 30-minute meeting, finish after 25. Yeah, I think that's an important thing here is that just because the meeting's in the diary for that time doesn't mean it has to hit that time, right? Start talking about personal and family stuff first. Yeah, that's another one we talked about over here around connecting with people, with more colleagues. Turn the camera on whenever needed. Yes. Start planning ahead, even if it's just for the day. Plan that day out. There's a lot of structure if you put that plan in for the day. You don't have to plan out a year ahead in the future, but you plan out the day. It's going to make a big difference. And stick to that plan. Yeah, definitely. Friendly conversations and banter. Yeah, you can see what we've got to do here, right? I think people here are feeling that there's a lot of focus on the work and actually there's a human connection being missed a little bit. It seems that way based on some of these cards here. Have fun games during the day. Yeah, absolutely. Make your retrospective meetings more fun by introducing different themes and activities. There's some really good ones out there I've seen recently. I'll post something out later about it, but there's some really good ones. You can use any number of different really good ones. There's a great website called, I think it's called Cupcakes. I'll find the name for it. But the retrospectives on there, there's hundreds of games, hundreds of different ways to do it. But not just the retrospectives. How do you make the stand-ups more interesting? How do you make the planning more interesting? Yeah. And empower all your team members to take their own notes versus one person taking notes. That seems like it's something from that organization, but yeah, I think quite oftentimes what you'll find is somebody becomes a note taker, and it's an anti-pattern in Scrum to have the Scrum Master being that note taker and moving the cards around and moving Jira and updating the board. We're actually there to help facilitate and coach the organization and the team. So empower everyone to take their own notes and to maybe collaborate on a wiki page. I've seen that work quite well, where everybody's logged into the same Confluence page or into the same MS Teams wiki page, and they're all updating notes at the same time. So you have the hive mind of the whole team's notes in one place. It's a really great way of doing things. Texting your coworkers, but not during meetings. Yeah, connecting as a human, right? Just because you're off the clock doesn't mean you can't connect to each other and catch up on WhatsApp or on text. Be kinder to yourself. Yeah, it's hard. It is really hard out there, and it's really difficult to sort of forget that everyone's in the same boat. So do be kind to yourself. A daily, weekly backlog, yeah, I think that's really helpful for people. Even if you're not working in a Scrum-like way, creating a backlog of stuff to do not only helps you focus and visualize your work, but also helps you understand when you've done the work as well. That's really helpful. There are great tools online to do that, but you can also just start with a Post-it note, right? Continue building meaningful relationships. I suppose we haven't forgotten about that, but we should continue doing it. To grow up, no, not to grow up, to grow and come up with innovative business ideas that support humans. Yeah, we should continue doing that for sure, right? Just because we're kind of working remotely doesn't mean that we can't grow. We can't learn. We can't sort of see ourselves growing further. Continue with regular Zoom meetings with the team. I mean, be conscious of this. I think it's important to do that, but look at the caveats before around making sure that the cameras and people are engaged and not hyper engaged, etc. But make sure the meetings are either, if it's unstructured and a little bit of a chat, that's great. Well, make it about that, or at least make every meeting sort of start with a bit of that, at least human connection time, so that you can at least settle in, connect to each other, take a temperature check. As a scrum master or a coach, checking how people are feeling is super important so that you can understand where the problems may lie and how you can help coach towards success. Continue to be in touch with colleagues and friends, very important. They'll just take turns leading the meeting, including choosing the topic. Yeah, absolutely. Have days called no meetings and hold true to not having team meetings. That could be a really good opportunity, you know. Also empowering people to say no, or to ask the people the question, what's the value of this meeting? I've been in organizations before where I literally used a calculator to understand how much money that meeting had cost us. And everyone had turned up for the meeting. There were 20 people in this meeting. And I think the meeting itself cost about £15,000 in the end. It was for a half-hour meeting because of the people that were in the room. And actually, there was only 2 actions, and it was only from one person that they needed to do it. There was no real reason for the rest of them to be there. So when you can visualize that, it's like actually empowering people to say, why am I here? What is this meeting about, and how can I add value? And if it's not relevant, allow them to walk away. There's some great TED Talks on this as well, I'll share later. Building a call plan for strategic meetings so all are on the same page out of the gate. Yeah, I suppose that can be very helpful. If you have a meeting and everyone's got a decent plan, or at least a bit of an agenda or a bit of an understanding of what the meeting's for, it can be really helpful. Using my notepad, yeah, very good. Keep taking notes. Establish a regular cadence for non-mandatory check-in meetings with the team. So yeah, one-to-ones, very important. But not for performance review, just as a checkpoint. How are you doing, guys? Is everything all right? Anything I can help with? To try and make work fun, you can be too serious and goof around a little bit, right? You can. And actually, I found the most high-performing teams there are often the ones with the banter, who are having a laugh and a joke, but actually they still focus on the work. It's just that humans need to have that time to connect as well. Make time for exercise and fresh air. You can book that in your diary. That means that meetings can't be booked at that time. You can say, I'm having a 15-minute break at 10:30 in the morning. It goes in your calendar as a standing meeting, and no one can book that time out. It's important to do that so you can get that fresh air. And check up on loved ones and even strangers. I think that's nice. It's very, very good. Some really lovely stuff in there. Thank you so much for sharing, everybody.